Hello, everybody. I'm Maynard Town Planner Bill Nemser. I'd like to welcome you to the Planning, Zoning, Rock and Rolling Radio Hour, the number one radio show in the nation devoted solely to planning and zoning. So, today it sounds like I'm in your radio and in your living room, just like every Thursday at 3 p.m. But the truth is, today I'm not. This is recorded a day ahead because I have to be at a conference. But to make up for the loss of live aspect in my studio banter, I will make it up in live recordings from your favorite recording artists today. All the music today. So today, one of the interesting things I thought I'd bring you was I have a very special guest today for a number of reasons. As you know, here on Planning, Zoning, Rock and Rolling, we pride ourselves in bringing you a great variety of guests. And today's guest is, you're not going to believe this, not from Maynard. And she is a real estate from, I think it's pronounced Bose Real Estate in Arlington.
That's correct.
Oh, and that would be one Sarah Suarez. And Sarah is not just one of the top realtors in the Arlington area, but she also happens to be in the brotherhood or sisterhood of the AICP. That's American Institute of Certified Planners. You're a certified planner too, aren't you, Sarah?
That's correct.
Good. Any family in the planning business?
Come from a long line of city planners.
Okay. Well, for those of you who don't know Sarah, Sarah actually is my daughter as well. But she's here today for two reasons. I wanted to make sure I knew where she was, and she's right here. But two, because I wanted to get some of the insight that Sarah has on her real estate experience in the Arlington area. And how we might be able to tie some of the lessons learned and some of the directions she's been taking, how we might be able to tie that into Maynard and see if we can learn a few lessons. So anyway, Sarah, let's talk about what you do. You're a real estate agent as well as a planner. Where do you work now? Your office is in Arlington, Bose Real Estate, as we said. But what are your geographical boundaries?
So our boundaries are typically the towns that surround Arlington. I spend a lot of time Winchester, Belmont, Lexington, a little bit of Medford, predominantly a little more suburban neighborhoods.
Are most of them east of 95?
Yes.
And right now, who are your typical clients, or do you have a typical client?
We get an array. Majority of them, I would say, are the young professionals that are looking to kind of take a step into adulthood and get out of the condo in Somerville, Cambridge.
And get into the real deal in Maynard. Of course, that's where we're going with this conversation. But so they tend to be younger in your case?
Younger, I would say young, low 30s.
Relative to me, don't. Right, okay.
Younger than you.
Yeah, all right. So when you go and people are talking about buying their first home, which I guess at that age bracket a lot of them are, or maybe their second home, what are some of the impediments you run into? I mean, obviously cost is always going to be. I mean, housing in Boston is, to use, and I can talk to you on planning terms as well, and this is one you'll remember from your planning education. Housing in Boston metropolitan area is sick right now.
It is a really competitive market. It's really...
Well, let's switch to plan. Put your planning hat on for a minute right now. Are people able to afford this? Is this sustainable?
I would say yes, only because we're seeing solid mortgages. People are putting down a tremendous amount of cash with these offers, and it's a big difference from Florida. We were in Florida in 2007 period when the housing market crashed down there, and the big difference was that there were a lot of insecure loans and a lot of high financing, double mortgages, and we're just not seeing that here. So it's kind of scary to think that it could be sustainable.
Well, do you think it's related to the job market? That the job market here is also phenomenal.
It's tremendous, exactly. Everybody that we're working with, these are college educated professionals working in high level positions in these world renowned companies. So it's a big difference from the tourist industry, which predominated in Florida.
So the jobs are here, the people are here. Now, Maynard, I've been out there for about going on 2 years now, and I think our average age right now, we just did our recent demographic survey as part of our housing production plan, and I think our average demographic is about 36, 37, somewhere right in there. So it's basically in the demographic you're working. Maynard right now is gearing up to compete in what is a high-tech and challenging 21st century global economy. It's doing that in a number of ways. Of course, like everybody else, we're looking for high-tech, we're looking for the biopharmaceutical, but we're also creating what I consider a cultural destination, and it's a combination of entertainment, it's a combination of the arts. We've got a lot going on out there, dining, a complete cultural scene, really. Is this something that would be appealing to some of the people that you work with for your clients? Do you think what we're creating out there is something that you could see an appetite for with your clientele?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the appeals about Arlington, is that it's suburban, it's suburban, so to speak,
Right.
without being full suburban, way out past 95. So, everybody likes the walkability. Everybody likes being able to walk to a movie theater, go see a show, walk to restaurants, having the parks. And that's part of the appeal of Arlington that we see.
So having walkability, it really is an advantage, because that's one thing about some communities. No matter where you are, there are communities that are strictly automobile dependent, and I always thought that Maynard has a distinct advantage by being, as you may or may not know, Maynard was voted the most walkable community in Metro West. Did you know that?
I did not know that. That's
by
very
Boston
impressive.
Magazine. Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep. But so walkability is something that would be a plus pretty much for any. I mean, we're talking about what we're talking about are millennials, but really anybody. I mean, I'm creeping up in middle age, as you might have noticed. But
on the edge.
right. But I mean, the walkability is something that's really unparalleled with a lot of communities. Planning, zoning, rock and rolling here. We are talking to renowned Arlington realtor from Bose Real Estate, Sarah Suarez, who also happens to be an AICP certified planner. Also is my kid. But anyway, we're going to get back to what makes a great community and what would be something that you would really look to Maynard to provide in order to have you start bringing clients out our way.
Well, I can tell you one of the biggest factors that people are looking for when they're coming to Arlington. They like that it still has access to the trains. A lot of these people are working in either Boston or they're in Cambridge, so accessibility to the trains is a really big factor in where they're looking.
I'm glad you brought that up. Before you go ahead, let me ask a couple of questions about that. But before we talk about the trains, because that's what we're going to hit on next, what do you think about a little train music?
Chugga chugga choo choo.
And we're back with Planning, Zoning, Rock and Rolling, the #1 planning and zoning radio show in the country. And I am town planner Bill Nemser, and my guest today is Sarah Suarez, a Arlington realtor. And she also happens to be a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. And she also happens to be my kid. But we're here today talking about what can Maynard do to look forward in the 21st century as metropolitan Boston heats up. And before we get to that, though, I have to ask you, how many radio shows do you know that play the Monkees still?
I don't think there's a lot of them, I have to say.
They're pretty good, though. I mean, you cannot be in a bad mood after listening to the Monkees, can you?
You can't.
Always happy music.
Did you know that was the first concert you ever took me to?
I did. That's a true story. I took you to see the Monkees.
True story. I remember it to this day.
That was on their farewell tour, I think. Anyway, back to business. So we're talking about the train connection, and really, when we talk about a train connection, No, we're not talking about your Moe and Shondo. No, when we're talking about a train connection, no, what we're talking about really is being able to commute in a reasonably quick manner. And I think that while a lot of people in Maynard are still struggling with that, what we call the last mile, the final mile there between Acton or West Concord rail station, it is a really convenient connection to Boston. What do you think about the importance of having a commuter rail so close and really making that commute doable?
Well, I think it's critical if you're trying to get, the type of person that doesn't want to have to sit in their car for an hour and a half to get into Kendall Square. And there's so many people looking to purchase homes coming out of Kendall Square that need, the commuter rail. They need the red line access. They need to not sit in their car for 4 hours every day.
So do you have clients that you sell homes to that automobile access to Boston is not their first, that's not the first priority? They're strictly buying based on mass transit?
We have a ton of people that are buying based on, being able to take the trains, not having to get a second car, being able to walk to Alewife Station or walk to Winchester Center to catch the commuter rail. It's a huge factor.
So, because, right now, if you take the commuter rail from Acton or West Concord, I have a number of friends in Maynard that take that train. They just do it every day, and it's no different than when, a lot of other people commute to other major cities and all. Is there any reason you see that Maynard couldn't capitalize even more on being connected to really metropolitan Boston?
I think there's huge potential there. I don't know that it's very well known yet that it is accessible to the Acton station.
What do you mean it's not well known yet? Your father's the planner there, for crying out loud.
Well, it's known by your daughter, but only because you became the planner there. But otherwise, I never thought of Maynard as being near a commuter rail. It doesn't have a station, and it doesn't have...
Within a mile. Within a mile we have a commuter stations. But do you think that that's something that Maynard really could make... I guess Maynard could emphasize the connection to Boston more.
Absolutely. There are places in Arlington and Winchester that are a mile from the train, but they're still looked at as accessible.
So it's no different in Maynard's case.
I wouldn't say it's any different.
And just for the record, if you chose to drive from Arlington into Boston, if you really want to take your automobile, you're bent on that idea, what would be the commute time in rush hour? It's undoable, isn't it? It's horrific.
It can go anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour and a half, 2 hours. It just
so less than it would take to get to the rail.
Sure.
Get in there on the rail from Maynard.
And it's only doable if your company is providing you parking too, because once you get into the city, you're going to spend $50 to park for the day.
So wow, $50 a day. Really?
Parking garages get pretty pricey.
Holy smokes. Planning, zoning, rock and rolling, here with town planner Bill Nemser and my special guest Sarah Suarez from Arlington, a renowned realtor and also a planner. Sarah, what do you think is the importance of the educational system? When people are, particularly if they're considering starting a family, educational culture is really important. It's no question that this must be a prime factor in selecting a neighborhood. What communities have you seen in the metropolitan Boston, Metro West area in particular, that have made a change with their educational system? Maynard's education system, I know, is something that we've been working very hard on, but I'd be curious to see what you think.
Well,
I want to see what you think. I have glasses. I want to hear what you think.
There are a lot of towns that are starting, to do a lot with their schools, and Waltham is a great example. Burlington, they're starting to do a lot of new development out there. The schools are not known for being amazing out there, but there are a lot of young professionals now that are moving out there because they can get more house for their money. It's still close to the I-95, I-93 corridors, and you start to see improvements in the schools there.
Do you think that Maynard is a community I've seen that has really done all they can do and more to make a school system that is absolutely top notch. It caters to what the realities of students are going to need once they graduate, and it is really it has the advantage of that it is controlled by the town, and that there's so much input into the school system. Now that can work either way, obviously, but it seems to be working pretty well for me. I mean, my producers, my crack producers, Johnny G and Matthew, not Andrew, who are running this show right now, hopefully, aren't you? And they are both products of the Maynard High system. But I mean, I think that when we talk about a school system, there has to be a reality that people get out of it what they put into it. And while you can say somebody has a fantastic school system, and I think Maynard has a fantastic school system, it's still going to be ultimately up to the kids, the parents, the the teachers, and so on. But do you think, I mean, right now that any of the communities, really, I mean, is there any reason why anybody shouldn't be going to Maynard? Let's put it that way. I mean, based on what we talked about, in your professional, let's start with your planning standpoint first. Go to your intellect.
Well, no, I think Maynard is really, I mean, it's showing that it has all of the elements that you learn in school that make a great community.
In planning school.
Planning school, yeah.
Now, and let's stop here for a minute, because I've realized that I've neglected to point out a couple of other facts. Now, those of you who listen to Planning, Zoning, and Rock and Rolling every Thursday at 3 o'clock, remember that when we talk about kids, and those of you whose children have children, the idea of long-term education doesn't necessarily translate to the total environment that you want to live in, but it certainly has to be a core component. So, Sarah, what I'd ask you is that how important is a complete community? In other words, a community for all ages that somebody can move in theoretically, be single, marry, have children, get rid of the children, no offense, and enjoy life. How important is that when you're taking your clients out?
I mean, I think people like the idea of being able to stay put for a long period of time. Not a lot of people want to move to a place where they know they're going to have to leave in a couple of years. So I think if you can create a community where you can be young, you can be middle-aged, and grow old in the same community, I think that there's huge potential there. You can, kind of live, work, and play in the same
It's a big draw, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to point out for those of you at home, of course, we don't have a screen where you can see the guests' reactions, but when she said middle-aged, she distinctly looked at me. I'd just like to point that out for our listeners. But anyway, speaking of middle-aged, how about a little tune right now? Anything you'd like to hear?
How about Magic Bus from The Who?
Oh, that's a good one. And the thing is that I promised our listeners at the beginning, because we're not live today in the studio, I was only going to play live tracks. And I flubbed that with the Monkees. But I can do that now with The Who. So let's rock and roll. Love those Who. That was a band that really could make a statement. But anyway, and I love public transportation songs. And as a fellow planner, you must enjoy those as well.
I live for them.
Magic Bus. All right. So wrapping up here with Sarah Suarez. So Sarah, thanks again for taking the time to come in. But so the takeaways from this are that transportation and connections are key. Is that fair to say? Good takeaway?
Absolutely.
I mean, I understand you're from another town totally, but I really think that it's useful to get your input and your insight on this. But the connection is the real deal. Secondly, what about a sense of community? You really didn't you had some thoughts on it, but where do you think the arts, culture, and entertainment fit into the realm of what you were really, what your clients are looking for?
Well, I mean, that's one of the top things. Whenever we meet with a new client, we sit them down and kind of ask what are their top, their top wish list items. And one of the things that always comes up is, people love being able to go down the street and go to a different type of restaurant. They like the, different cultural aspects of going to a show, going to a movie theater, going to...
And Maynard has culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we have multicultural,
I've been to a great Vietnamese restaurant and a great Korean restaurant so far.
There you go. And there are so many, really, aspects to the entertainment and dining.
Yeah, people like doing things in their community. So
and walkability.
Absolutely.
And so you think, in your opinion, as a planner and as a real estate agent, really, Maynard is a complete community, isn't it? I'm biased, but what would be your thoughts?
I think it's a great community. Now that I'm familiar with it, and there's so much going on that was just unknown before, and it's it has everybody's wish list.
Okay, well, what's on your wish list for a cut to hear as your farewell, your fondue? Fillmore East. I'm Maynard Town Planner Bill Nemser, and this is Planning, Zoning, Rock and Rolling. And I'd like to thank Sarah Suarez for spending a little time with us over the last half hour. Again, top realtor in Arlington, and also a American Institute of Certified Planners member. So very insightful young lady. Also happens to be my kid, but I hope that was an interesting segment. Moving forward now, we'd like to talk about how we can relate what we just learned to Maynard's future initiatives. And these are not necessarily etched in stone, but these are just sort of ideas that are in the hopper, so to speak. And one thing that I really count on as town planner is hearing from all of you out there. And you can always email me at bnemser, Nemser, at townofmaynard.net. It's bnemser at townofmaynard.net. And I really do value your input, and consensus building is really the backbone of what we do here, and what I try to sort of shepherd as your town planner. So please let me know your thoughts on any of the topics that you've heard today or on other episodes of Planning, Zoning, Rock and Rolling, and we'll do our best to factor in all input. That is really the key ingredient for a lot of the decisions that we try to make here at Town Hall. One of the recent initiatives we've been working on is the redesign of Veterans Memorial Park. And I think that the key element here is that Veterans Memorial Park is a wonderful community asset. And while it functions perfectly as a gathering space and as a venue for a number of activities, it doesn't really serve the purpose of being a connector between downtown entertainment area and the Fine Arts Theater, the library, art space, and so on. So what we're trying to do, and what we're trying to really achieve with that whole initiative, is increasing it as a sort of connector between downtown and all our other key destinations. And this is primarily geared to pedestrians. It's not necessarily geared for the automobile, but do we really need that? But I would really like to know what your thoughts are on that particular initiative. It's something where I'm going to be working on a number of grants for. There's always typically a requirement for matching funds, and these would be your tax dollars as well. So I would really like to know what you think about that initiative, and that is the Veterans Memorial Park initiative. And I really do value your input, so please let me know what you think. Another initiative that is going to bubble up to the forefront pretty quickly is the so-called art trail. And it's only a so-called art trail because it's not an official project yet. And it's the only moniker I could really hang on it right now. But essentially what that is a sidewalk improvement between Veterans Memorial Park, Art Space, and then Art Space to Mill and Main. The reason is simple. Art Space is one of our premier cultural destinations. I have found that in applying for a number of grants, its proximity, albeit only, a quarter of a mile, half a mile, is a disadvantage without a connector between the other assets of the community and the actual venue of Art Space. What about the idea of improving a sidewalk with some artistic features on the way? I think that this would be a very feasible improvement, particularly as the sidewalk is in rough shape and it's something that we're going to need to improve anyway. But I would really like to know your thoughts on that and see if that's something that you think you would really embrace or something that you think, yeah, you could live without. Or maybe it's just all right. Steve Winwood and Eric Clapton with the old traffic classic, well, all right. So anyway, we're talking about what initiatives you as a resident would like to see us work on in 2016. And we already talked about the improvements of Veterans Memorial Park and a little bit on the Art Walk. But let's keep going and talking about a few other initiatives that are underway and get your thoughts on them. And again, I ask you to please drop me a line, bnemser at townofwellington.net. I'd really like to know what you're thinking and hear what your thoughts are on some of these ideas. Something I'm hearing an awful lot about lately is conversion of downtown second floor spaces into residential units. Now that's something that as a planner I can tell you is really what we strive for in a lot of downtown areas. And the reason is simple. When you fill up existing space downtown, you do a number of things. First of all, obviously, you increase the tax base without increasing the footprint of development in your area. And that's something that's very important for a community, to have functioning space that is generating revenue for the town, and particularly if it's already built. Having a community presence downtown, or really a neighborhood downtown, is something that benefits most areas, and I think that in the past it's worked in Maynard, and I certainly would think that it would be appropriate now, particularly given the new development we've seen with both Mill and Main and some of the other businesses that have come into town or are gearing up right now. But that might not be your opinion, and I'd really like to hear it. Again, feel free to drop me a line, bnemser at townofmaynard.net, and let me know your thoughts on downtown redevelopment. And lastly, as promised, I have one more topic I'd like to go over with you and solicit your thoughts on. And that is what we call wayfinding. Now, in reality, wayfinding is a fancy name for signage. But let's face it, signage matters. And there's a lot of different thoughts on signage in town. A lot of you know our zoning official, Rick Asman, who interprets the sign code, and it can be tricky. Signage really has a number of roles in a community. Obviously, it can bring you to a business, but it can also bring you to a community destination. And believe it or not, sometimes signage can be artwork. But in this case, what we're talking about really is as a downtown feature or an amenity, one that points out key destinations, including some places that those of you that are locals may feel are second nature, but if you're visiting from another town, may not be. I mean, a key amenity I would point out would be parking spaces. If you're not from Maynard, do you really know where to park? It's second nature to all of us to know, well, you go behind CVS, or you go into the Basin, or now into the River Lot, etc. But we have to remember that as an arts and entertainment district, we have people that may not be that familiar with Maynard. Wayfinding signage may be crucial to those people having a pleasant experience visiting Maynard. On the other hand, signs are signs. Now, we can make them look good and we can put them in strategic places, but I'd really like to know your thoughts on that. So please let me know your thoughts on wayfinding signage. I think this is really a crucial initiative that we need to move forward with, and the way to do it right is to hear what you all have to say, so please let me know. And this is just about all the time we have for this week's Planning, Zoning, Rock and Rolling. I'd like to thank my guests, Sarah Suarez, and as always, wonderful producers, Johnny G and Matthew. But we'll be with you next week at 3 o'clock, and we're going to leave you with a very nice live cut from Big Brother and the Holding Company, whose lead singer you may have heard of, Janis Joplin.